Hey there, everybody. This is Ed Lemberger with some more metaphysical musing, but I'm calling this one Harmony Health. So I'm taking a look at this presidential race, and I'm thinking, well, what does that have to do with my physical health, my mental health, and well-being? What does it have to do with my harmony, my internal harmony? And here's my disclaimer for this is, look, do I know what I'm talking about? I mean, who knows? I think I do, but you might not think I do. So here's the first thing. It's your mind. Make sure it's you that's using it. So everything that I say, everything that anybody says, put it always through your own intelligence filters. Make your own decisions, think your own thoughts, be 100% responsible for what you think, do, say, and go on with your life as you start to harmonize just by taking control of your own thought nature. So here we go. Harmony Health and this presidential election. Now, I've got into metaphysics a long time ago with a couple of different authors, and one of them is this guy named, here's this book that I was just reading not too long ago, The Law and the Word by Thomas Troward. And this book is over 100 years old. Well, not the exact copy I've got. It's not over 100, but who knows how old this one is. But he wrote it over 100 years ago. And I like this guy. He talks about cause and effect. But here's one sentence I'm going to read from this book, and it's going to carry us forward here in this video. Here it is. Here's what he says. This is Thomas Troward from his book, copyright 1917. It says, "If I go to New York, the first movement in that direction is that of my thought." Keep that one in your mind. If I go to New York, the first movement in that direction is that of my thought. So if you look at it from a cause-effect perspective, you wouldn't end up with the same effect if there were no thought behind it. So the thought is directing the use of the power of nature. Directing the use of the power. We're all receiving this power. You're receiving it. I'm receiving it. Now, how we use it is another way, is another thing. But it's our thought. And I was thinking that right now we've got a couple of billionaires running for president, but one specific billionaire. And again, I'm just trying to observe here. I don't want to sound like I'm making a judgment. It might sound like I'm judging, but I'm just observing what's going on. At least that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put my mind out of the whole thing as a person who's in the action and move myself more to the play-by-play announcer. And here's what I see, and here's how I perceive things. So, this guy, Michael Bloomberg, a billionaire, every time I click on a YouTube video, not every time, but a lot of times when I click on a YouTube video, I get a commercial for Michael Bloomberg. I'm driving in my car, I get a commercial on the radio for Michael Bloomberg. I'm watching TV, I get a commercial on the air for Michael Bloomberg for president. Okay? The guy's just buying up all this time, but he's putting this image of himself out there. And every time that I move my thought in that direction, I'm moving my mind and my energy in the direction of Michael Bloomberg. Does he feel it? I never met the guy. You know, I don't know him. I don't think I've ever been in his company anywhere or his presence. So, but just by me thinking in his direction, he is actually leveraging some of my energy going out of me and into him. Where attention goes, energy flows. So he's putting a lot of attention onto himself by running for president. And he's buying up all the TV time, so there's no way around it. We can't really get around it. So he is what I call a leverager. So he's leveraging, he's using money to buy ads, to put his face in front of you, and he's leveraging the thought energy of people thinking into his direction. Okay? Now, if you go back, 3 years now, to when Donald Trump was elected president, Donald Trump he used the same thing in a different way, because all the TV networks, every time we had a story, it's what does Donald Trump think about this? So Donald Trump used all this basic free advertising by getting himself on the news all the time, and then we people that are watching all this, he's on our mind all the time, so we start thinking in his direction, and we build up pathways in our mind-body system to think in that person's direction. Do they feel the energy? Do they get the energy? It's my belief that they do, because there is no, within the universal soup, the ethers, I don't think there is any time or space. This is how I believe it. So these people are actually setting up flow lines of our attention energy into them. And if the flow line keeps going, keeps happening more and more and more and more, it's kind of like how a river keeps flowing in one direction and starts to erode the soil around it and starts to cut a path. And then with these people being on TV so much, and in front of us so much, or on the internet or wherever they are, wherever we see them all the time, we start developing automatic withdrawals, paths out of us and into them. And some of our energy is used to brighten their star, and they become very powerful. They become very magnetic. They become like our sun. Our sun has a lot more gravity, and it is attracted and holds in place all of the planets. And the planets revolve around the sun. Okay, the sun has the energy. So we're creating these stars out there of people with so much energy. And where this energy flows, the money flows with it too, because what's the thing that we believe in more than anything, more than life and death most of the time? It's money and the flow of money. And if you look at these billionaire people, they've got the flow of money coming into them. So they're receiver people. So in fact, all of the people that are famous, they are receiver people from the flow of attention energy out of us and into them. And they receive it. Their star gets brighter, but it's partly their star is our star too, because we've attached to it by being donor energy into their receiver energy. So everybody on TV is in the receiver energy position. And in order to have a person make like as much money as Michael Bloomberg has managed to corral, he set up these networks where he's the focal point for the flow. He's the sun, basically, this big star, and all this money flows into him. So he's the center of a vortex of energy and information and money that goes into him. And he's got something like $60 billion. But in order to have $60 billion, it's got to come from a huge soil base, and the soil base is all of us. So every time you and I spend a dollar, a lot of that dollar, some of that dollar goes to feed the billionaires, because they've got the distribution lines that set this whole thing up. Now let's look at when the money does go into these billionaires, like somebody like Michael Bloomberg, how much of it rains back down on us, just like nature, when the water evaporates into the air and it falls down, and when it falls down on the entire expanse where it falls. But these Billionaire people like Michael Bloomberg, look, I read where he's willing to spend $2 billion on this race, buying up time and all this stuff. $2 billion. Well, that's great. And when he was mayor of New York, he was mayor of New York. So why doesn't he go into New York now and spend another $2 billion in the city of New York and start to refurbish the schools and everything, and start to set up some programs here, refurbishing programs, to refurbish homes, for people, refurbish schools, get some money in the hands of the actual people. Because right now, a guy like Michael Bloomberg, he's spending all this money on TV ads, and he's making the TV people rich, which is great. But the TV people, like if you look at it as far as the stratosphere, so the money goes all the way up to these billionaires, one of them Michael Bloomberg, $60 billion worth. And then when he rains down money, how far does he rain it down? It rains down to the level of the TV networks and the TV people. So how much of that money do the people at the grassroots level get? Well, very little, because that's the soil base that's feeding the whole thing. So you get where I'm coming from here? So if we move our minds into a place where we're making our own decisions, then we can choose to opt out of sending attention energy to a person like Michael Bloomberg, or a person like Donald Trump for that matter, because you realize these people are vortex people, which means they're the center of a flow matrix where they are the receiver and we are the donors. So in a political situation where we want to really help all of the humans in our society and not just, set up the flow lines again up to all these billionaires, there's one way to help out with that, and Andrew Yang had the program with this universal basic income. It's not his idea, but it's in line with nature. So once we start thinking about this and withdrawing our thought from moving into the direction of these people, then they can spend all the money they want, but they're not going to get anywhere. If they do engage people's minds into enough where they create a river of flow and they create an automatic withdrawal from a person out of that person and into them, that's when they become more powerful. Now, we've been dispersing things along the internet here, I think in the last 10 years probably. From about 2010 to 2020, a lot of changes have been taking place, specifically because the internet has gotten a little more mature. It's still in a gestation period. We still don't know what's going to happen here with this whole thing. But if we understand at least some simple flow dynamics, we can get ourselves feeling better. Now, why would this be healthy for me if I observe this phenomenon? Because it's healthy for me because if I don't give so much of my source energy into all these people and situations and ideas, and I keep the energy for myself and just observe and see what my role is, if I can make myself a vortex person, or even if I can't make myself a vortex people, because most of these vortex people are born, they're not made. They're born. Now, if I can keep as much energy as I will into my own thought matrix and my own mind-body flow matrix, my own energy matrix, I can be healthier, because the more source energy that I have, the more it straightens out all the crooked places and starts to dissipate all the walls that I've built in me. And I've been noticing this too. Now, I'm up there in age, a little bit, but I've noticed that the people that get up in their 90s and 100s, they don't lose their source energy out into the matrix of the collective consciousness as easily as the people who expire earlier. Sorry to say that, but that's what I've observed, observed. So, anyway, I've been rambling on here. Health, harmony, metaphysical musing. Keep your energy to yourself. Become an observer, not an attacher, and see how it works for your personal energy. It's going to take a while as your energy field adjusts to being in a receiver, at least not a releaser energy field. So if you can stop being a releaser energy field for a good way and just even if you're not receiving at the present moment so much, you're stopping all the automatic withdrawals out there. So you don't start to attach onto every situation that sparks some thought energy out of you. So I'm Ed Lemberger. This was Metaphysical Musing, Harmony Health, and thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for hitting the like button. I'm going to be putting out more videos, and I think I'm going to be more into the harmony health type of situation. I might use some current situations to just get to understand this harmony health equation, and really it all begins with the mind. So once we start thinking ourselves that nature knows what it's doing, that nature is the repairer all of the time of our body, that the laws of nature are not trying to break us down, they're trying to build us up. But what thoughts are we using in the background to create our harmony or our disharmony? And something to start thinking about. Thanks again for listening, for viewing. Peace out.